Talking F1 with Steve, Neil and the Gov. Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your F1 Wednesday this week night pit stop. I am the Gov, and this is the show for fans of Formula One, be that new fans like me, aficionados, old fans like Steve and Neil, or the casual that know their way around the circuit, but perhaps haven't tuned in a couple of races or a season or two. This is the show for you. The chance, as always, if you're new to what we do here from HDR Media, talking podcast, we give fans the chance, whatever sport, whatever club, the chance to have their say in their own words, unfiltered. Exactly the same way as Mike Baker has kicked us off with tonight. Evening all. Sorry I've been away. Fell out of love with the F1 recently due to too much politics in the sport. EJ, good evening, lads. I said last week Russell would come, I think he's good, 3, and he didn't want to come back drive from Hamilton. That's right, this evening. For those that would like to know where the show is heading in our 30 minutes to go, we have our Ferrari disaster on the agenda. We have our Mercedes back. That's the question on the agenda. We've got Verstappen leads the championship and a surprisingly exciting Spanish Grand Prix. And we also look ahead to Monaco, everyone's favorite race, right? Yeah, maybe not. Don't forget, if you're listening on audio, please leave us a 5-star review and let the world know why you love the F1 Fan Show Live. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't yet hit subscribe, well, now's your time. It costs you nothing. It's completely free. Hit that subscribe button. Here he is. He is our aficionado. He's our fountain of knowledge. It is, of course, the one, the only Mr. Stephen Thompson. The aficionado, Stephen Thompson.
No, I think Bottas he'll be the one to really hold Alpha together.
Stephen! You had a little of a facelift at F1 Towers. The intro, first of all. What do you think of that?
Loving it. I love the rebrand. It's very good. Very good.
Bad, is it?
Yeah, big fan.
Sound effects in as well, And the car is the same colour as our livery, the F1 Fan Show livery of what's that? You called it green, but
it's a greenish
turquoise.
There is probably there's a name for it, isn't there?
Turquoise, I think, is the name for it. Do you want to speak about Mike Baker there? Because I know Mike's not alone in falling out of love with the sport and too much politics. What? First of all, what do you think Mike's actually referring back to there, and how does the sport sort of navigate its way through to bring fans like Mike back?
I think, to be fair, I can understand F1 did lose, a fair few fans, especially towards the end of last year with all the politics and things surrounding, Abu Dhabi and Hamilton, Verstappen. It's always been a political sport. That's always played a part of it. I remember watching things back in the late 80s, early 90s when the FIA had a Frenchman at the helm, Jean-Marie Balestre, and obviously Alain Prost was winning races then. He always had a preference for Prost. It's been a thing. It's been in Formula One for decades. It always will be. It does feel a lot more political the past few years, so I do agree with that. And I understand why he has sort of drifted away from it. Like I say, he's not, like you say, he's not alone. Nice to see he's coming back to it, though, because the racing this year is phenomenal. It is so good.
It is. It really is good, and it's good to see the fans returning. But yeah, it did leave a sour taste. EJ Norris, the Mercedes are back, says EJ. Well, we'll come to that in just a second. Completing our little trio of F1 fans contributors is, of course, Mr. Positivity, Neil Moles. Mr. Positivity, Neil Moles.
Yeah, but we're crap. We're not going to dominate any team.
Neil, welcome in. How are you? Hello, Neil. Bonjour, Treacle. You're on mute, son. Now
you're sideways. Here we go.
Sideways. Either I've fallen over or you're sideways. Meow.
This is going well so far.
Oh dear, Neil. You're humming a bit. Oh, hang on. You there? You're on mute, Neil. You're having a Western.
I shouldn't be.
There he is. There he is, sports fan.
Guess what? Just as you brought me in, my phone decided to go, do you want to update the software for your Earbuds Pro? Guess what? No, I don't.
No, you don't. How are you first and foremost? Now you've picked yourself off the floor and put yourself back the right way around.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Good man. So Mercedes, we'll kick it off there. EJ Norris says Mercedes are back. Are Mercedes back, Neil? Are they on the return?
Well, if this week has anything to go by, then they're definitely a lot closer to Red Bull and Ferrari.
A lot closer, Steve. I mean, these were champions last year. The way they've fallen off is quite exciting for the sport. But are they back? I mean, you know, they're closer, but are they on the way back? Is it a blip? What's going on?
It has been a drastic fall from grace, isn't it? You know, ending up with the most dominant car for the best part of a decade to suddenly scrapping it out, you know, for 6th, 7th, 8th place. Whether they're back or not, I think it remains to be seen. They had shown some good progress in Catalonia. The good thing with Catalonia is it does tend to show up a car's strengths and weaknesses. That's why they use it for testing. And it did look very strong. Hamilton's comeback drive was absolutely insane, considering he wanted to retire the car after a couple of laps, and Mercedes told him to keep going. Tricky one to follow it up with, Monaco. And Mercedes have struggled in the past at Monaco compared to other circuits, I think. So it will be very interesting to see where they sit in the pecking order in a week's time.
Yeah. Monaco is the track that not only Mercedes or Hamilton sort of struggle with there, Steve, but also Charles Leclerc. So it might be a podium finish for grabs, I guess.
I'm so nervous.
Yeah, is it just to sort of complete the Mercedes chat now? Is it a case of they are back? You can definitely say that. Hang your hat on that comment, or is it we're going to have to wait and see where Mercedes are concerned, because we've seen them come back, then fall off, then come back, then which one is it for you?
For me, it's still they're not the top team still. Well, could we say they were maybe half a second off Red Bull and Ferrari, and now these updates mean that they're, you know, only a few tenths away? But unless they do another step, they're still not fully in the hunt. You could tell by the fact that Russell was trying not to let them past, rather than actually be able to properly fight with them. And that was while Leclerc was off and, you know, having a little country drive.
We've got EJ, Metal Jace. I think Mercedes understand what the problem is now. I think there'll be some more upgrade tweaks. I know Lewis Hamilton was very happy, wasn't he, Neil, on the radio?
He was, yeah. Well, Mercedes chose the wrong, the cooling package, because they were having cooling issues for most of the race, and at the end he had to let Carlos Sainz go again. But he can be very happy with where he was, carrying a little bit of damage and managing to get all the way back up there.
EJ Norris, Mercedes will be racing for a win within the next few races, or even sooner. Steve, is that something you see coming? The racing for the win, says EJ.
Yeah, I've never had a doubt this season that Mercedes will at some point get themselves back into this fight, whether it's, you know, going to be soon enough or too late to have an impact. You know, it's Mercedes. You don't just lose it. So Monaco and maybe the following race a little bit too soon, but yeah, certainly by the summer, sort of around the summer break time, I think they're back in the hunt.
Okay,
and we'll have a six-way fight for the lead, hopefully.
But before we come on to actual Verstappen, talk to me about the team orders. How did you see it, first of all, Steve? Because as a new fan to myself, that was probably the first time I've really seen it. Fascinating stuff. Perez did feel like he'd been left in the lurch a little bit. How did you, as a long-standing fan, probably see that many times, how did you witness it?
Yes, I've seen plenty of team orders in my time following F1. It was controversial. All team orders are, I suppose, or most team orders are. I felt bad for Perez, even though he's the number 2 driver. He'd not put a foot wrong. You know, he was quicker. He got the fastest lap of the race. He was quicker for a large portion of that race. He didn't bin it in the gravel like Verstappen did quite early on. He kept it on the track. He kept it fighting. He kept it facing the right way. And he was rewarded by being told to move over for Verstappen. I think what frustrated me more is that they were guaranteed they were going to get a double podium, regardless. And your main championship rival in Charles Leclerc is out of the race, so you're going to get a decent chunk of points against him anyway. So let Perez have this one. I think he deserved it. He really deserved that win.
Particularly as Neil, maybe not. Everyone goes that. I don't know about that. And but there was no one else around these two. There was no outside threat. Russell was falling back. There was no outside threat. Verstappen's pace was such that he may have bypassed Perez eventually. Anyway, this is normally a harmonious relationship. Did Red Bull overcook the chicken here? Because they made an issue where there's not really an issue. Because from my perspective, you've put a little bit of animosity in there now. Sprinkled it on.
No, I think it will be okay. I think Perez knows really that at the end of the day, Verstappen is their boy, and he is going to be the main championship contender. He is the one who's leading the championship. So
he is, but
it's a surprise to see team orders this soon into the season. That was a surprise.
Were you surprised, Neil? How did you see it?
I think it's a little bit of a joke. I see where Steve's coming from. Perez sort of knows the deal, but via this weekend, Perez pretty much knows he's never getting another win in his career.
Was there a need to do it though? In all honesty, with what I say, with Russell falling back.
Well, it was
particularly as early as it was.
That they put him on a two-stop strategy, in which most teams, I think, were going to try and go that way, but they soon found out that the three-stop was the better way to go. If I think even Verstappen would have gone along the two-stop until he ended up spinning off, and Perez got told, "Let him past because he's on a different strategy. It will come back round to you later in the race." And as we fully well know, it never did. Perez ended up at one point getting up behind where Verstappen was stuck behind Russell, and he wasn't allowed to have a go until Max got pitted. He pitted, didn't he? So he was then out of his way, and then he ended up having a go at Russell, and he got past him. But you think if they had to use team orders then and just got him past, then he would have been further up the road later on in the race. And would it have been too close, too much of a gap to close, too close to the end of the race to decide to let him through? But they chose that they wanted Verstappen to take the win. And if that's the way it's going for the end of the season, then, like I say, Perez is never going to get another win in his career.
What do you do now, you Perez? Because you're in a fast car, top team, but you know you're never going to get that opportunity, as Neil's just said. Are you looking now to move? Are you thinking this? I've got to move on to win a championship at some point. Are you just happy to be number two? The Valtteri Bottas to look to Verstappen's Hamilton.
There's nowhere else for him to go.
No,
that's the problem.
No, the top team is already secure, and they're not going to want him. Really,
Mercedes might have an opportunity coming up in a year, maybe a 2-year process.
I don't know if they go for Perez.
Is Perez really that much of a junior compared to Lewis?
Well, a few years younger.
I'm the new fan. That's what I'm asking you two for. If you're telling me.
I think the only time you're going to see Perez win a race now is if Verstappen has a bit of an issue, like in Azerbaijan last year. Obviously, Perez sort of inherited that win. He's got to think of himself and think of his career, but he's not a young guy anymore who can afford to jump around for a couple of years before settling into a team. This is probably his last chance saloon at winning races and having at least a go at a championship. But realistically, while Verstappen is around him, they're going to favour him. I mean, obviously, team orders have been around for a long time, and I've never been a fan. I can't stand team orders because you see what it does to the driver's mentality. Perez on the radio saying it's just so unfair. And my heart breaks for him because he's such a nice guy and he deserves race wins.
Okay, right. Before we go on to Verstappen and actually talk about the man himself, we've got EJ. No, Well, sorry, Metal Jace. Russell showed his racecraft defending Max when Max's DRS was intermittent. Did you enjoy Russell's racecraft there? I bet you were loving it, Steve.
Oh,
But you were
love
absolutely in your element.
Love it. I'm still a Russell fan at heart, even though he's abandoned my team because he wants to do bigger and better things. What's that all about?
Well, to be fair, most people can probably walk faster than the Williams car, so that's
especially in the hands of a certain Canadian. Yeah, that was amazing defending. Obviously, Max had the intermittent DRS. You see it pop open and then pop down again.
Yeah.
But when he got a run at Russell into turn 1 and then into turn 2 and 3, that defending from George was fantastic. Came back across around the outside and he squeezed Verstappen wide. Incredible. This is why Russell is definitely one of the stars of the future, because he, certainly for the coming seasons, because his racecraft was absolutely fantastic. I think part of that comes from spending those years driving the Williams, because you're learning to be a more defensive driver than a more offensive, because you're slower than the cars around you. You learn how to defend. And
yeah,
he's
that's a
done
very
that
good point.
So well.
Which
He's
is
learned how to
something.
defend. It's fantastic.
Sorry, Steve, because you made a really good point there, which got me a little bit excited, because this is a bit where I can suddenly weave back something you've both said over the last couple of weeks. And that's something you've both said about Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? Where he's struggling with that midfield battle because he's not had to learn those techniques, Neil, that Russell, that Steve's sort of highlighting there. Lewis has never had to get his elbows out in the midfield and work his way through, has he?
I'm not 100% sure on that one. He's always shown great racecraft, and that's been something that he's well known for. And he does do these, from the back to the front drives quite often. He likes to do a lot of moaning at the same time, and let's retire the car.
That will.
Like,
that will.
What's the point in that comment? It is so defeated. You just can't do that.
Just because you're at the back, fight forward, and it proved out to be a good choice. But I think the difference with George and Lewis is that George has had the first 2019, 2020, 2021. So the first 3 years of his career fighting at the back of the grid in a poor Williams, where he's not really got much. I mean, last year's car was better-ish, but the first 2 years, especially, trawling around at the back of the grid. Whereas Lewis, for most of his career, has been in a car which can fight for wins, or at least be fighting for good points. Thinking of his early years at McLaren, apart from 2009.
He came straight in a championship-winning car.
Exactly.
He could have won the title in his first year.
Yeah, China. But yeah, I think he's maybe got a little bit rusty at the defensive driving side of it, because it's only really just been him and his teammate for the best part of a decade. Whereas George, like I say, has been constantly week in, week out, having to defend, especially when he's been Mr. Saturday and he's been putting that car further up the grid than it should be, and having to defend it in race day because the cars around him are much better in race trim. And I think that really showed against Verstappen, who is one of the best drivers on the grid by a long way. And he defended him so well. He was brilliant. Loved watching him. My heart was in my mouth. They almost came together. But they cracked on, and it was fantastic driving. Yeah, there's...
What do you think of the whole DRS not working?
It was quite funny. Because he's on the radio going, "Oh, it's not really working, Max." He's like, "Yeah, because I'm pressing the fucking button like 50 times." Just press it once then. If it works, brilliant. If it doesn't, there you go. His little DRS, but he was getting so irate, which I can understand because adrenaline's running high and you're fighting for the lead of a race. But it was brilliant.
Sorry, lads, my lights fell over there, so
no worries.
That's right.
he got fried to death.
That's where Perez, he went straight past, no issues, and Max is just having a wobbly. That's where he's got a bit of Lewis, because as we were saying, Lewis moaned, "Oh, right, let's just retire now, save the engine." Max is having an absolute wobbly about things not working, so just concentrate on the race, man.
Yeah.
We've got some comments coming in, as always, unfiltered in your own words. EJ, not surprised because he thinks Horner was a twat. There you go. That's his words. It's unfiltered. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't necessarily think he's right. But hey, it's his opinion. FSM wouldn't be surprised.
What is the context between Horner being a twat?
That was about the team orders with Perez and Verstappen.
Okay.
Wouldn't be surprised. If Mercedes done something at Monaco, there's supposedly the fastest in the low speed corner, says FSM. Mike Baker, team orders more politics. The best driver should always win. Little Jays
100%.
Lewis didn't defend very well against Max at the last of the races last season. Mike Baker, the driver makes the car doesn't make the driver. EJ Norris, that was so funny with the DRS. And Ian, our Darlington fan, on a Tenable quiz show today, one of the questions was named the 10 F1 teams in 1920 season. And he got them all right. Good work, Ian. Love it. Loving your style. So Verstappen, other than the DRS, great race from him, would you say, Neil?
Say again, sorry?
Verstappen, outside the DRS issue, great race for him though, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, he showed his pace because they changed the strategy. They pitted him. He pumped in the laps, and then when it come to the others having to do their stops, he was obviously, gained enough in lap time alone and gained the place that way.
Yeah.
And the only blip on his weekend really was him going off at turn 4, which Carlos Sainz did a few laps earlier.
Yeah, it actually helped Sainz out in my view. The fact that when Max is doing it, you don't look so bad after all.
Yeah, you're not the only one. It's the world champion, so you're okay. Just don't do it too much.
Well, yeah, but it does help. Ferrari disaster. Let's move on to Ferrari now. A Ferrari disaster before Monaco, so that's not great news. Steve, what happened with Ferrari? How did you witness it?
Started off so well. Charles Leclerc, nice pole position there. Carlos Sainz beaten again in qualifying. It's now 6-0 to Charles Leclerc this year. And if he wants to drag himself back into this title fight, then he's going to need up his qualifying game because he's a very harsh critic on himself.
Yeah,
he finished second in Bahrain and he wasn't happy with it. And he's very quick. He beat Charles Leclerc in the standings last year, but this year, for whatever reason, be it through poor judgment, bad luck, he is struggling. And it was another disappointing weekend for him where he finished over 40 seconds behind the leader in 4th place. It would have been 5th had Hamilton not had to start lifting and coasting towards the end because of a few reliability issues.
Yeah. But
again, off the pace of his teammate all through the weekend. It all went wrong for Ferrari, even more so when Charles Leclerc's car decided it had enough of the circuit and wanted to go home. And that broke my heart. I had a bit of when I saw Carlos Sainz in the gravel, I had a bit of a heart attack. And then sort of thought, it's okay, it's Carlos. And then when later on they showed car number 16 going very slowly. Like, no. He was walking
Couldn't
that race
believe
as
it,
well.
could you?
No, he was absolutely walking that race. He could have got out of the car and pushed it, and he still would have won.
Is this where a race coming so fast on the heels of this one, Neil, comes in handy, or would you rather have had the weekend off coming up? Because this is their first major wobble of the season. They've been flying so far. This is the first major wobble.
Yeah, I do and I don't agree with that. To answer your question, initial part of the question, I think it's brilliant that they've got a back-to-back weekend. They can forget straight about it, get their heads down, and it's Leclerc's home Grand Prix, so he can try and do his best to do well in this time. And on the other hand, with Ferrari doing so well and now they're stumbling, I think ever since Red Bull had the fuel issue early on, ever since they sorted that, they've been the team to beat for me. And Ferrari have still got a little bit to gain.
What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. It's swapped a lot, hasn't it, since that first race in Bahrain where Ferrari absolutely ran away with it, a 1-2 finish and a double DNF for Red Bull. Yes, the Red Bulls were looking quicker, but the one thing Ferrari had on their side was reliability because Red Bull seems quite frail. Verstappen failed to finish 2 out of the first 3. And Ferrari seemed bulletproof. And now, we've had a big issue for Charles Leclerc on Sunday. Ahead of a Grand Prix he's failed to finish, and every year he's raced it, or even failed to start. So it's the one thing they had that they had the edge over Red Bull, seeing as Red Bull got the edge of them on pace, was reliability. Maybe because Catalonia was just incredibly hot because Charles Leclerc's Ferrari failed, and also Zhou Guanyu's Alpha, powered by a Ferrari, failed as well.
Yeah.
So whether the Ferrari was struggling with those quite high temperatures, you're not going to have that so much in Monaco because rain is forecast.
In Monaco, really?
Yeah, they've had quite a few wet races there, yeah. And that always adds an extra bit of spice into the mix.
Are we expecting a good race this week then as we come towards the climax of our time together? It's Monaco. I think
it could be eventful. You think that this season the cars have been able to follow a lot closer, so you potentially you could get some close following around Monaco, in which would mean we could have some interesting lunges. And you know how lunges work in Monaco. It normally means one car flipping another, and so we could see some red flags. Yeah, it could be an interesting race.
I think if you speak to a bunch of F1 fans about opinions on certain races, Monaco is very divisive, probably more so than others. Some absolutely, like myself, I love Monaco. I think that's my love for the historic side of Formula One coming through. But a lot of people really don't like it because has Formula One outgrown Monaco has been the big thing. Because if you look at comparisons from cars, from the 90s, noughties, and now, these cars are massive. Even though this generation is smaller than the 2021 era, for example, or the previous era, they're still a lot bigger than 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, it was easier to follow and easier to race. This year, I'm excited more so than I have been for a while because, like Neil said, the cars can follow closer. The racing has been brilliant this year. You've got now potentially 3 teams in the mix who can be up there. There's always room for a surprise. You could maybe see a McLaren up there. You could potentially see an Alfa Romeo up there. Who knows? Points for Haas, points for Williams. Anything can happen because, especially if the rain throws up a bit of a surprise. And I think that's what I love about it because the smallest mistake is punished. I hate all these massive tarmac runoff areas like you get at Abu Dhabi. You make a mistake, you're either in the gravel or in the wall. Punished. Brilliant.
Yeah. One thing you won't be seeing this weekend, I think, gentlemen, is a Charles Leclerc finish. I think the Monaco curse is real. We know it.
Unbelievable. That car or that luck in Monaco because he crashed Niki Lauda's Ferrari there, didn't he, last week as well? Brake failure. Yeah, brake failure. He's never failed to. He got pole position there last year and then couldn't start the race because he crashed. And the previous year, there wasn't one in 2020, I don't believe, because of the pandemic. 2019 failed to finish. 2018 failed to finish. And I think even before that, in Formula 2, failed to finish.
He did. It's not a race he enjoys.
To say I'm nervous is an understatement.
So, give me your top 3 then to round off tonight's wonderful, wonderful show, my friends. Steve, your top 3 for Monaco.
I am going to go for. I'm going to say he's going to break the curse. Charles Leclerc.
Big claim.
Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen.
Okay. Neil?
I believe
for every drop of rain that falls.
That's the one. I think it'll be Verstappen, Leclerc, and let's go George Russell.
See, okay, we'll park the Russell minute. We'll come back to that. So you also think Leclerc's going to break the curse this weekend?
Yeah, it can't last forever. As much as you want to believe in curses and luck and all this sort of stuff, it's just the way it works out sometimes. And this time it's just going to be like it is for anyone else.
Okay, and George Russell in third.
Yeah, he seems to be there or thereabouts, and I say Monaco can throw up some interesting scenarios, so I can't see why he won't be there or thereabouts again.
Okay, I love it. All right, let's see what happens. Where will Hamilton finish, boys? Just out of interest, what position are you going to give Hamilton this week?
I'm going to go DNF.
Okay.
Reliability issue.
Okay.
That's not what I would have said, but yeah.
Well, what are you going to say?
He'll either be within 1 or 2 places of Russell or a DNF because he's had a collision with someone.
Okay.
Magnussen finishing what he started.
I see we're being positive. That's it for tonight's show. Steve, I'll let you lead us out before I hit the outro. I know you want to say a quick word as well to the people that watch us and download us, particularly, last week's viewing figure, nearly 300 on the F1 Fan Show Live. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening, for taking an interest, for downloading, for tuning in. This pokey little Formula One show is getting more and more views now, which is absolutely brilliant. And we love it. We appreciate every one of you that listens and comments and gives us questions and opinions. Love the debate, love the chat. So we are back on Monday after the Monaco Grand Prix, which hopefully will be nice, exciting, and Leclerc will have the lead of the championship again. We will see you there 7:15 usual time. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the race.
Absolutely. See you. We'll see you next week. See you then. Talking F1 with Steve, Neil, and the